You are listening to the 5 a.m. podcast, and today is your day. Welcome to the 5 a.m. podcast. I'm your host, Michael Claassen, and today we have an inspiring guest who embodies resilience, faith, and entrepreneurial success. His name is Scott Curry. Scott is a Christian businessman, world-renowned keynote motivational speaker, author, and online educator whose videos have been viewed over 6 million times by more than 2 million people worldwide. From overcoming homelessness twice to building 5 successful businesses, Scott's journey is a powerful testament to perseverance and faith. He's the founder of Faith Roar. Scott combines biblical-based motivation, education, and mentorship to help others achieve greatness in their lives and businesses. His story is one of transformation, pivoting from that 9-to-5 cubicle job to creating a thriving online business that generates over $250,000 in profit every year. Scott's passion is to equip others with the tools and mindsets needed to overcome life's toughest challenges and unlock their full potential. Now, just before I welcome Scott to the show, please share this with 3 of your friends. I know that many are going to enjoy and, dare I say, profit from today's conversation. And now, Scott, welcome to the 5 a.m. podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on. It is a pleasure to be here. And I sincerely hope that your audience gets motivated, inspired today, and learns something that they can take action on to absolutely change their lives and live the life that they've always wanted.
Yes, amen to that. That is our directive here at 5 a.m. podcast, is to be purveyors of hope, that the final chapter has not been written in the story of our lives. And there is more for us to have as opportunity, more to accomplish, more to do, more blessings to receive and to give. So, Scott, your story is remarkable. From that homelessness time to running multiple successful businesses. Can you talk about that turning point that shifted maybe not just your lifestyle, but also your mindset and set you on this path to success?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always had a strong desire to get into business and start my own business. Throughout every single point since graduating college, I've had multiple jobs, but I've also been constantly trying different businesses. And I had a few failures in life. I ended up homeless twice, but that didn't stop me from trying again. And I am so incredibly grateful that I had the perseverance to continue trying, even in the midst of so much failure, because the end result is absolutely remarkable and better than I could have ever imagined. What ultimately set me on this path to make the determination that no matter what, I am going to be successful in business some way, somehow, was about 10 years ago when my twin boys were about 2 years old. And I was heading out to work one morning, and all of our bedrooms were at the top floor of the house. And we had a baby gate up there so they didn't fall down the stairs and hurt themselves. And as I'm getting ready to leave one morning, I climb over the baby gate, start walking downstairs. And from behind me, I hear my twin boys at the top of the stairs, 2 years old, and they're twins. So they're in unison, and they're saying, "Daddy, don't leave us. Daddy, don't go. Don't leave us, Daddy, don't go." And I turned around with tears in my eye, gave them a big old hug, and I made the decision that day that no matter what, some way, somehow, I was going to find a way to start a business that allowed me to stay home and be with them and raise them and not miss any more moments with them.
Yes. Well, what a powerful and tear-jerking emotional experience of you wanting to be there for your boys and, of course, your wife as well. And knowing, oh man, like you're tugging at my heartstrings, boys, and maybe some good salesmen or some politicians in their future. If you can share with us maybe some of those experiences that caused the homelessness, and then maybe the light bulb experiences that charted the course to getting into home ownership and business ownership.
Yeah, when I was younger and single, I was willing to take a lot more risk than I am today with a family. And so being young and single, I did some things that most people would just seem completely and totally crazy. I had one business that was starting to get a little bit successful and was just barely enough to pay bills. I said, I'm going to go for it all out. And I quit my job and went for it. And about 3 months later, it had to slow down and all of a sudden couldn't pay rent. That was the first time it happened. The second time it happened, I was essentially doing the exact same thing where I was going after it. A little bit different situation. I was actually chasing a girl that ultimately ended up being my wife and quit my job to move to a whole new state up in New York. And I was just like, I'll figure it out when I get up there. And when I got there, I didn't quite figure it out right away, but eventually I got on my feet. And so, it's a lot of risk taking and doing kind of crazy things when I was young and a lot more able to overcome setbacks like that. But I definitely say I calmed down a lot once I had a family and definitely took a lot more calculated risks, I say.
Right.
So, for example, when my latest business did finally get to the point where it had replaced my income, I didn't quit right away. I'd made sure that we were going to make more than enough money because I didn't want to face that situation again. I couldn't with
Yes.
all the responsibilities from family.
Right. So then I want to ask you, people might be curious already how they connect with you online because some people we might have really baited the hook well, and they might be saying, I got to know more about this fellow that Michael's talking to today. So, Scott Curry, how do people find you online?
Yeah, just go to faithroar.com. Faithroar.com has got all of the information about me, about the different businesses on there. We help people start their own business. We help people budget effectively. We help people invest the money that they're making in the stock market. And it's a full approach to help people become financially free. And I'll tell you a quick story about why I started this company.
Yes.
I've run We Profit Day and Night, which is my online stock market educational business. And that comes from the experience that I had working at Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley up in New York and applying that expertise to help people that are just getting started in the stock market. And I've been running that since 2021. But Faith Roar is new. That I started a little over a month ago. And the way that came about is back in September, my mom ended up getting extremely sick and took her to the hospital. She spent about 3 weeks in the hospital and ultimately passed away. And the day she passed away, we were sitting in the hospital room, her dead body's next to us, and we're just telling stories among each other. And my dad told us something I'd never heard before. My dad said that my mom only had one regret in life. And he went on to explain that when I was born, I was the oldest, the first child. And then when my sister was born, it was the middle child. My mom did not feel financially secure enough to stay home and raise us. So from the time we were infants, we were in daycare. And it was the daycare teachers that raised us while my mom went back to work. And when my youngest brother was born, my mom was finally at the point where she felt financially secure enough to stay home and raise him. And after raising him for about a year, my mom told my dad that she regretted not staying home and raising my sister and I. It was the only regret she had in life. And when I heard that, sitting there in that hospital room, I made the decision that day that I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that nobody ever had to face a situation where they had to choose between family and finances ever again. I was extremely blessed during the last 3 weeks that my mom was alive to be able to be in the hospital with her every single day. And the only reason I was able to do that is because I had a business that provided residual income where I made money whether I worked or not. And I want every single person out there to have the same opportunities to be able to work when they want to and spend as much time with their children as they possibly can, to attend every single after school event, every single sports event, and not miss a single important moment with their family, and to be there in times of crisis. I never want them to have to go to work while their family's going through something. And that's why I started Faith Roar, to take the same success I found in business and help others achieve the same thing.
Wow. That's very powerful. And I'm sure there's some people listening right now. Maybe they're on their way to work. They're home from that dreaded night shift that they're just doing because it's what is in their plate to do. And they know their Mrs. or Mr. is starting the day shift right away by the time they're coming home from work in the nights. It's not an easy task and not an easy road to navigate. But some people might be saying, "Oh man, come on. This is just too good to be true. How can I actually succeed financially? There's just seems to be so much negativity set against me." What would you say to those listeners that are really struggling with those kinds of negative, self-limiting maybe emotions?
And I think self-limiting is the absolute correct word there. A lot of people, they have worked their butt off at their jobs. They're doing everything they can to provide for their family. Many people are working 2 and 3 jobs. A lot of people are working a lot of overtime, double shifts, and no matter how hard you work, it's just never enough money. It seems like there's always more month than there is money. And no matter how hard you work, you just can't seem to save up. Christmas is coming up, and you're probably facing another Christmas where you have to put your presents on credit cards and then spend the entire year trying to pay them off, if you ever pay them off. And you're just going into more and more debt. You got no money in savings. You're working your butt off. You're stressed out. You can't stand your job. You can't stand your boss, and you feel like it's hopeless. And I want you to know right here, right now, that there is hope for you. God says in the Bible that he will do immeasurably more than you could ever ask or imagine. And I've found that to be absolutely true in my life. At the same time, the Bible also says faith without works is dead. You have to have the faith that you will achieve what you've always wanted out of life, and you have to put in the action to actually make that happen. When I started my We Profit Day and Night company, and I was able to quit my job and replace a 6-figure income in 3 months, but it did not come easy. I was literally working 18 to 20 hours every single day for 3 straight months. I was getting 3 to 4 hours of sleep every single night for 3 straight months. And it was a huge sacrifice for 3 months. But now I have had nearly 5 years of benefits from those 3 short months of sacrifice. And if you're willing to put in the work, you're willing to put in the effort, and you believe that it will happen for you, it will, because God has got an amazing plan for you. And the other thing I want you to remember is it's not all about you. People that go into business to make money don't make any. People that go into business to help other people end up making a lot of money. And the question you have to ask yourself is, how can I help others? For a lot of people, that means you know a way of doing your job better than anybody else, and you're able to become your own self-employee, start your own business doing what you're already doing, and make a lot more money and have the freedom to choose when you want to work. For others, you have an incredible idea that's in your head. You know it's a great idea. You know it would be amazing. You're just too scared to get started. And for you, I want to encourage you to just get started. Try it. Put in the effort. Give it a shot. One of my life mottos is the answer is always no until you ask. And what I mean by that is if you start that business, you might fail. But if you don't start the business, you're guaranteed to fail. If you do start the business, you at least have a chance of finding success. And if you're ever going to change your life, if you're ever going to have that life you've dreamed of, you've got to go out there and give it a shot and go for it and try to make it happen. And I guarantee you, you are going to learn more and find more success than you could have ever imagined. You do not want to end this life regretting having never tried. So go out there, give it a shot, give it your best. And I think you're going to find the results are better than you could have ever imagined.
Yes. Wow. Powerful, powerful testimony and some what we used to call social proof just a few short years ago of your attitude and the idea that uncommon activities provide uncommon results. Common activities provide common results. So during this period of time where you were kind of running ragged from pillar to post and a few other things in between, and now you have your businesses going, how do you balance running those businesses while maintaining your personal faith and that family life?
For me, the important thing was to automate as much of my business as physically possible. A lot of people get into business and they're not business owners. The business owns them. And they spend a huge number of hours, sometimes 80 hours a week, just trying to run the business and survive. I learned very early on that I had to create some sort of residual income that other people could manage. And for me, that meant going out and hiring contractors, Fiverr, Upstart, or others that reached out to me to do a lot of the heavy lifting so that I could focus on more high level stuff. And once I did that, it freed up a lot of time for me to be able to spend time with the family and take care of other personal issues in my life. And so that was it for me, is really focusing right from the get-go on how can I automate this? How can I cause this business to run with as very little work from me as possible?
So then it sounds like maybe you've read the E-Myth Revisited book. I don't know if you have, but
I have not. I did read 4 Hour Work Week, which I
okay.
thought was a load of crap until I started putting some of it into action. And then I realized, oh, wow, this actually works.
Yeah.
And so, and this is the thing about business. And a lot of people, this scares people off, but it's actually really exciting. There's a famous quote by Jeff Bezos that says, fail small. And what he means by that is he will go out and he will try 10 different things. He'll put just a little bit of effort into 10 different things. 9 of them will fail, but one of them will work. And so he fails at 9 things. He finds that one thing that works and he goes for it. And this is how it's been in my business as well, is I have tried a lot of different things over the years. Most of them have failed, but by continuing to persevere and try new things, I eventually found what worked. And so don't be afraid of failure. There is no failure in business. There's only lessons learned.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. So then I want to ask you about Faith Roar. And on there, you have your exclusive communities and you have your mentoring programs. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not a sales pitch for Scott. He hasn't asked me to ask him about this. I'm curious. So I'm following that curiosity loop, as they tell us in common parlance about marketing. Can you talk a little bit about kind of that expectation for people of coming into the different, either a coaching program or a mastermind? What's your hope, and what have you maybe seen is the people's hope when they're coming into faithroar.com?
I think most people that go to the website, they're in a place of a little bit of despair and a little bit of hope. They're coming for a reason. They want to make their life better. They're just not really sure how to do that. And so when you go to Faith Roar, we start out with some free resources, which are the YouTube videos. And a lot of that is really motivation. It's showing you success stories. It's sharing different tips and ideas and really helping you build the faith that you can be successful. From there, we go into some communities and well as some education, where it's either some self-guided educational courses you could take or some communities you can join. And those are really to get you around other people and help you answer questions and really help you get started. And then we have a further stage to that, which is the mentorship. The mentorship is really for people that have gotten started and now they're really looking to grow and expand at an exponential pace. We have a business coach that helps established businesses make their next $1 million or make their first million if they're struggling. And then the self guided and some of the communities are really around those who are just getting started and beginners. So it's a three-step process. It's motivation to give you the faith it can happen. It's some courses and communities to get you started, and then some mentorship programs to help you get to the next level.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And I'm sure that a lot of us are skeptical. We come across so much in our social media feed of, hey, I was this, and then I was this, and this happened, and follow me for more insights. How do we kind of, whether it's eating the meat and spitting out the bones or kind of clearing a patch, taking those weeds out of our financial or our vocational garden?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is find other people who are actually successful. And I get it, that can be hard online because a lot of people like to show off Lambos that you find out later are rented,
Yes.
or they like to show off some private jet that you find out later was just a
A
box on
room.
the ground.
That's right.
And it's really hard with all the fakes out there. One thing that I've really done really worked hard at with Faith Roar is to find people and vet people that are actually successful. So, for example, our business coach, he has a long history of helping businesses make millions of dollars, and he has a long track record of success. Our budgeting guy, he is completely out of debt. He has built up a huge amount of savings, and he is budgeting in a way that allows him to travel and enjoy life without dipping into that savings. So he actually went out, he did it, he found success, and now he's teaching others what he did. When it comes to our trading community, I found over 30 multimillionaires who have made over $1 million trading stocks and options. And those are the people who post the trade alerts and provide that mentorship. And so in each case, it's been a vetting process, and it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of work on my end, but going through and finding those people, you know, it's important to me to have the absolute best people doing the coaching and teaching, because if not, it looks bad on me and it looks bad on my company. And I think most importantly, it doesn't help you. It just scams you out of money, and nobody wants that. And I built this business off of one goal, and that is to help you become successful. And I am doing everything in my power to help you get there.
So, was there a role then that maybe mentorship played in your success? And how would you approach mentoring others today?
Absolutely. Nobody finds success in life without the help of other people.
You can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com. 5am Podcast is brought to you in part by mkci.ca, a certified member of the Autodesk Developer Network. MKCI helps companies maximize their AutoCAD, Inventor, Navisworks, and other design software investments. Their innovative products like the CommandSys script editor and the Clash Management Suite will streamline your workflow and boost your productivity. Visit mkci.ca today to discover how they can enhance your competitive CAD advantage. That's mkci.ca. Thank you for your support of 5am Podcast.
If you're in sports, you need a coach or a mentor to help you get better. If you're going to the gym, those who work with personal trainers get a lot better than those who don't. And when you're in business and you have a coach or a mentor, you grow a lot faster than people that try to go it alone. And for me, my experience is more in stocks. I learned a lot working at Merrill Lynch. And when I got started at Merrill Lynch, I had some incredible mentors who had a lot of experience, who had direct access to Federal Reserve chairman that could give me incredible insights into the markets. And I learned a lot from them. I never would have been able to do it on my own, but it was my mentor in Merrill Lynch that really helped me get to where I was today. And so in each case, we all have these mentors who have helped us out. I know another guy, he made $4 million in the stock market in 2 years. But what you don't see is that he also worked at a hedge fund for 10 years, learning and being mentored before he went out and made his millions. And every single person needs a mentor. We all need somebody not only to give us a little bit of education, also a little bit of a kick in the butt, but more importantly, if you want to learn how to become a millionaire, the best way to learn is from a millionaire. If you want to learn how to make multi-millions, learn from someone who's a multimillionaire. If you want to learn how to be a billionaire, learn from a billionaire. The best way to learn is from people who have actually done it, not by reading a book where it's a bunch of theory. And that kind of gets in my other life motto of don't let school get in the way of your education. Because a lot of people go to school and they read books and it's a lot of great theory and it sounds great in practice, but it doesn't actually work out in real life. And the best education you can always get is experience and mentorship from people who have done it.
So then, in this vein of mentorship, I was just chatting with an older friend of mine today. We were talking about uh, having to say goodbye to friendship sometimes. We all know that we travel in the same direction as our friends. Do you have some examples or stories from your own life where you realized I have to stop hanging out with these people and start hanging out with these people?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a lot of people, when they start to have success in business, end up losing most, if not all, of their friends. And the reason is there's an old saying that you are the average of the five people you spend the most time with. And so if the five people you spend the most time with, your five closest friends, I mean, if you're a guy, you're lucky to have five friends,
Yes.
but the people that you spend the most time with, whether it's coworkers, friends, whatever, you end up becoming an average of them. So if your friends are hanging around the water cooler, talking about how much they hate their job and how much life sucks and how they're not getting paid what they're worth, and you're hanging out on Saturdays and just watching football, well, you're going to turn into somebody who hates life and complains nonstop and watches football. On the other hand, if you change your group of friends and you're now hanging out with people who are really successful in business and they're growing and they're getting after it every day, you in turn are going to get that desire, that motivation, that passion to work your butt off and find success in business and grow and keep up with your new group of friends. And what ultimately happens in life, what I have seen is we all start out kind of in the gutter, hanging around people that are just watching football and complaining. And then we go and we get that mentor who can kind of introduce us to other people. We start hanging out with those people and we grow and we get our business up to, say, a six-figure income, get up to 100, 150,000 a year. But then you kind of plateau, you flatline, and in some cases even go down. And you have to drop those people that stall and get stuck. And you got to go find a new set of friends that are millionaires and go work with them until you make your million. And then you get stuck and plateaued again. You got to drop them, go find some that are decamillionaires. And you're constantly having to change your group of friends, the group of people you hang out with. And the goal in life is always to be the dumbest person in the room and be the poorest person in the room. If you can get around people where you are stupider than everybody else and poorer than everybody else, you're naturally going to increase your life.
Just the that rising tide of that room is raising the boats. So I want to ask you, can you share maybe some common obstacles that you see entrepreneurs or people that come seeking mentorship face, and then are there some strategies to overcome those obstacles?
Yes. So one of the biggest obstacles I see, well, there's a couple of them, but some of the biggest obstacles I see include the delay. So a lot of people say, hey, I want to improve my life, but I'm just not ready. I'm going after a promotion at my job. I just want to try to get that first. Or I've got a baby on the way. I can't risk it, or whatever it is. They have some reason why they want to delay. And the problem is you've been delaying your entire life. And the fact of the matter is, the sooner you get started, the sooner you're going to change your life for the better. the sooner you're going to get out of debt, the sooner you're going to get free, the sooner you're going to have more time with the family, the sooner you're going to be able to take more vacations, the sooner your stress levels are going to go down. The sooner you get started, the sooner your life is going to change. So don't delay. You've already been delaying your entire life, coming up with excuses. And that's number two, excuses. Excuses is the second thing that a lot of people get stuck on, is they come up with all these reasons why it won't work. They say, well, I might get started, but I might lose money. Or, I could try it out, but that would just take so much time away from my family. Or, I might go after it, but I don't know if my wife would be on board. And we come up with all these excuses as to why it won't work. And that keeps us in this place of fear, and it keeps us down and depressed, and it causes us to never get started. So you've got to eliminate those excuses. The other thing I see people get stuck on is analysis paralysis. And that is where they want to analyze everything. I made this mistake when I first got started. I graduated college from the University of Florida, and I went to business school, and they taught me all these things about going into business. They taught me how to create a business plan. So when I first graduated, I wanted to start a business. I went through and created the world's most amazing business plan. I did my marketing analysis, my product research, pricing research, competitive research, customer research, you name it. I did it all. And after 1 year, I had a huge pile of papers on my desk and nothing to show for it. And that's when I realized that I got stuck in analysis paralysis. I analyzed the business to death and never took any action to actually make it successful. And the other problem that a lot of people get into is sort of this dead thinking, where they're thinking, hey, I'm too late in life. My time is up. I can't risk it anymore. I've got a family now, or I'm too old. And what I always look at are these young kids in their 20s. They end up making millions of dollars within 5 years. And you can just go pick up a copy of Forbes, look at the 30 under 30 list, and you're going to see all these people that started businesses and made millions of dollars within 3 to 5 years. And whenever I look at that, I think if they can do it in 3 to 5 years, anybody can do it in 3 to 5 years. I don't care if you're 70 years old. It is not too late. And believe it or not, the people that are most successful in business, that golden age, is right around 50 to 55, because that is the point at which you have enough wisdom and knowledge throughout life to make really good decisions in business. And you're not old enough to where your body's getting really tired and it's getting really hard to keep up. So 50 to 55 is actually that golden age where people find the most success in life. So you avoid those 4 things. Don't delay. Don't come up with excuses. Don't get analysis paralysis, and don't get that dead, I'm too old thinking. And if you think about that whole acronym DEAD is dead. Don't be dead. Go after and find your success.
Yes, we certainly do sometimes seem like we're searching for the dead among the living and the living among the dead. Now, something else that I discovered in getting ready and researching for this interview today is that your story actually includes escaping from an abusive relationship. Can you get into that a little bit about how that shaped your perspective on resilience and personal growth?
Yeah, and that's a tough one for me because it's something I'm still going through. This is the weird thing about narcissism. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot today to basically describe selfish people, but true narcissists are only about 2 or 3% of the actual population. And essentially, the emotional abuse is so subtle that most people never see it. On top of that, narcissists tend to provide this incredible public persona of being the nicest, kindest, most caring people you'll ever meet. And so for most people in the world, when they meet a narcissist, they think, wow, that person is the nicest, most caring person I've ever met in my life. But for those people that have any sort of influence, they are absolute hell to live with. And generally, that is only going to include the spouse, the children, and subordinates at work. In some rare cases, it might include patients from a doctor or patients from a psychologist. But generally speaking, it's their children, the spouse, and the subordinates at work are the only people that ever see the narcissist's bad side. And with that kind of emotional abuse, it just gets you in the absolute mud, in the absolute gutter, destroys all sense of self worth, destroys all sense of self identity. About a year ago, I was getting extremely depressed, didn't really know why or understand it. I just felt like everything was my fault. And through the help of counselor and family, in May of this year, I finally got enough courage to leave my spouse and get to safety. And over the past 6 months, I've been rebuilding my life, and it has been exceptionally difficult. But through it all, this has literally been the worst year of my entire life. In January, my 3-year-old son got extremely sick, ended up in the ICU, almost died. And then in May, I made a harrowing escape from my abusive wife after she drained all the bank accounts, all the investment accounts, all the business accounts, left me completely penniless. And then 2 months ago, my mom passed away. I mean, it has just been the worst year of my entire life. And the only reason that I've been able to get through it, the only reason I've been able to carry on and survive all of this is by the help of God. And I, this year, have truly come to understand what the Bible means when God says he'll give you the peace that surpasses all understanding, because there is no logical way that I would have this much peace and motivation and encouragement and positivity in my life right now. It's only through the help of God that I am surviving and being able to come and talk to you today.
Wow. Well, that is a powerful story in and of itself. And my next question I was actually going to ask you is how do you, because you've been talking about your faith and your Christian beliefs. It was something that we love to talk about here on 5am podcasts because it is such an uplifting, helpful set of principles and foundation for life. But how do you then use or recommend to use these biblical principles in your business, in your coaching, in your motivational speaking, and guiding others into some, let's say, a faith-focused direction?
I think for me, it's using the verses in the Bible, a lot in Proverbs, a lot in Ecclesiastes and other places as well in the New Testament, where it talks a lot about money, success, finances, relationships. And as I go through that, the pillars of faith roar include helping people get out of the muck. It's the Bible verse that casts all your fear and anxiety on the Lord. And it's really saying, okay, I'm really scared to go try to start a business. I'm really scared to try to save and invest money. I'm scared of losing money, but I'm going to cast all that fear and all that anxiety on God. And I'm just going to put it on him and just have faith this is going to work. And then the other part of that is gaining the knowledge and the experience needed, because you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience in your job and how to do things at work, but you probably don't have a lot of knowledge and experience in how to start a business or how to invest in real estate or how to invest in the stock market. And that's where the education piece comes from that. And there's a lot of Bible verses about teach a man in the way he will go, will not forget it. And so you have to learn and get that education so that you can start doing things differently in your life. And then the final part of that is having the motivation and the faith that it's actually going to be successful. And that goes back to the Bible verse I talked about earlier, where God will give you more than you could ever ask or imagine. And I have absolutely seen that in my life. There's a lot of people listening to this. You're helping out. Maybe you're helping feed the homeless, passing out some food or blankets. Maybe you're sponsoring a child at an orphanage. And I really want you to think bigger, because the more money you make, the more money you can give. I went out to Uganda a few years ago and found an orphanage. Actually, they reached out to me and I went out there to visit, make sure they were legit. And this orphanage had 30 kids. They were really struggling. And I bought them a few acres of farmland. I bought them a bunch of seeds so they could grow their own crops and no longer struggle with feeding the kids. I bought them school books, and then I bought them some food to get them through until their crops grew. And so I looked at that situation and I said, God's blessed me. I can now go out and support the entire orphanage, all 30 kids, and provide all the food for them rather than just sponsoring one. I found some churches that really needed help to grow. There were people in the community, they were coming to Christ, but they had no place to go to church. I bought them land so they could build their churches and have a place to hold church. There were some schools in the area. In Uganda, they don't have free education like we have here in America. In Uganda, they have to pay to send their kids to school. And so a lot of people that were really poor could not afford to send their children to school. And the churches were stepping up and providing free education, but the churches didn't have the money to build the school buildings and buy all the desks and chairs and everything. And so I used some of the money I had to build school buildings for these schools so that kids could go to school and get free education. And so I really want people to think bigger and realize you can have a far greater impact on the world if you're making more money and have more money to give. And so I really want people to get into a place financially where they can give so that we can all have an incredible impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great perspective to have too, though, that as blessings increase and our hard work pays off, there's something that we can do, spread it around to pay it forward. It's not just about us. And that sounds like a very useful tool. Are there some other tools or habits that have been critical in helping you maintain motivation and focus over the years?
I think the biggest thing long term has been setting goals. So I have goals. I start with a 20-year goal. Where do I want my life to be 20 years from now? And I look at it from four perspectives. I look at where I want my personal finances to be. I look at where I want my business to be. I look at what I want my life to look like. Where do I want to be living? What do I want to be doing? And I look at it where I want my kids to be. How do I want my kids going through life? What do I want them to do? How do I want them to treat others? From there, I go to a 10-year goal. I take about 25% of that 20-year goal because ultimately our success in life is exponential. So I take about 25% of the 20-year goal and I create a 10-year goal with all the same things, but about 25% of the way there. Then I do a 5-year goal, which is about 25% of the 10-year goal. And then I do a 1-year goal, which is a small fraction of the 5-year goal. And it starts with the 20 and then gets broken down until I eventually get to a 1-year goal. The 1-year goal is a lot more action step oriented. It's things that I'm going to do throughout the year in order to accomplish my goals by the end of the year. And then every year in January, I look through that. I figure out where I made it. Ultimately, you're going to find that you have some goals you accomplished a lot faster than you were expecting, and you have some goals that you accomplished a lot slower or didn't accomplish yet. And so you just have to modify that every year and just kind of update things as life goes on. But what I have found in life is this, that when I set goals, I accomplish significantly more than when I don't set goals. And there's something about keeping your eye on the prize that causes you to have a lot more success in life.
Yeah. Absolutely. Keeping, well, the blinders, that they used to put on horses that can't get distracted. I want to ask you, how do you define the word greatness and what does it mean to you personally?
I probably have a very different definition than most people. To me, greatness is serving God. Ultimately, God calls us to be obedient to Him. God calls us to expand His kingdom. And so for me, greatness is not about what we accomplish in life, but what we do with what we're given and what we do with the opportunities that we have in front of us. And so certain ones of us, we have very few opportunities and we have to use what we're given. If you look in the Bible, and there's a moment in there where a poor lady came and gave a very small amount, a very small coin that wasn't really worth much at all. And people kind of mocked her. And Jesus said, wait a second, she gave everything she had. And you guys may be giving more money, but it's a very small portion. And Jesus explained how her act was greater than all the people that gave a lot more money, but a lot smaller percentage. And so for me, greatness is about what we are doing to help expand the kingdom of God. And that means using our resources, our time, our money to do things that are going to expand God's kingdom and allow us to be obedient to Him, help bring more people into the kingdom of God, and help feed the homeless, take care of the poor, do everything that God commands us to do. It's not really about how successful we are in life, but more about what we do with the success that we have.
Powerful words and powerful thoughts too, because we do have the opportunity to give of our time and our talents as well as our treasure. And sometimes we might feel that people are only interested in our treasure, not in our time and talents, but that's probably a conversation for another day. I do want to ask you, is there a piece of advice that you wish that you had received earlier in your entrepreneurial journey?
If there's one piece of advice that I wish I had received earlier, it would be this: don't be afraid of failure and know that you are going to be successful. So get after it and go after it right away. One of the things that I really suffered with early on was this fear of failure. It's one of the reasons that I created that huge business plan, is I wanted to have all the possible negative things worked out and solutions for it all. And if I had just gotten started and gone after it, I would have learned a lot, gained a lot more experience, and found success a lot earlier in life. And so I want to encourage every single person listening to this. You might be afraid that things might not work out in life. You might want job security over the risk of running a business. I'll tell you, that's a complete farce. I've been laid off from my job multiple times. And the problem with having a single income is that if you lose that one income, you lose everything. When you run a business and you have 1,000 customers and you lose one customer, it makes a tiny dent in your overall income because you still have 999 paying you. And a business is far more secure than a job. And so I want to encourage everybody to heed this advice and get started now, today, some way, somehow. Take one small action step every single day towards accomplishing your dreams, because there is no reason to wait and delay any longer. Fear is not going to destroy you. Failure is not going to destroy you. All it's going to do is teach you something that's going to help make you successful in your next venture.
Hmm. Yeah, we really do have to look at failure and fear as friends and teachers. They're really only alerting us to things that maybe we're deficient in, and it's okay to be deficient because we have the capacity to grow and to learn and to build. And of course, one of the underlying themes that we've talked about is Christianity, and of course, there's 365 verses in the Bible about not fearing. And there's of course the Book of Proverbs, which you and I touched on. There's 31 chapters, so there's a chapter for every day of the month. So if today is the first, we get to read Proverbs 1, and what a blessing it is to read that book. I want to ask you, because I'm seeing an increase in faith online, and from what I'm hearing in the community and from friends and neighbors, other things like that, how do you see the role of faith evolving in the business world today?
I definitely see it increasing. One thing I have noticed over the past few years or decades even is there was this gradual decline of faith in the workplace, and people are starting to realize that that was the wrong way to go about it, because people are starting to get depressed, they're down, productivity is decreasing. But now that faith is starting to come back, we're starting to see a complete 180 in all of that. And the biggest thing when it comes to faith in the workplace is that this is actually productive and helpful in a lot of ways. Because when we put our reliance upon God, when we're obedient to God, we end up doing things the right way. We do things in a trustworthy manner. We do things with excellence because we're always trying to be the absolute best version of ourselves that we can be from a Christian perspective. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's good. Well, thank you for that response. It's very thoughtful and thought provoking too, because we know that if we keep doing the same things the way we've always done them, we shouldn't expect different results, right? So that comes back to the uncommon efforts, uncommon actions bring uncommon results. So, Scott, I want to ask a little bit about the coaching the stock dads, that community. I know I've been looking around on it, and there's a lot of really interesting information on there. And can you talk a little, if somebody is really daunted with the idea of whether it's crypto trading or stock trading, other, let's say, platforms like that, can you talk a little bit about maybe the mindset that goes into it, or somebody might be saying, man, I've really been beaten down to the turf with a divorce or a job loss or death in the family, and they're really looking for a way out. Can you describe a little bit about how uh, your your plans, let's say with weprofit.io, can help somebody like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got to share another story.
Sure.
I had a gentleman a few years ago. We were doing a millionaire club portfolio. That's what I called it. Essentially, it was where we were taking the max amount that you could put into a Roth IRA and making that contribution every other week. I think at the time it was like $260 every other week. And after about a year of doing that, we had put about $7,000 into the account, and I was doing it, and then other people were following along and learning. And shortly after that, I got an email from somebody, and he said, Scott, I have to stop following the Millionaire Club Challenge because I just lost my job. And he said, because of you and your encouragement to put money into the stock market every pay period, I have $8,300 in my stock account. Now, two things for that. One, if he had put that $7,000 into the bank in a savings account, he may have had $7,050 by
Yeah.
the end of a year because the payout in savings accounts is so low. But by putting it into the stock market instead, he didn't have $7,000. He had 8,300 because he was able to grow his portfolio. And what he told me was that because he lost his job, he was going to have to pull all that money out. But that was going to get him through 2 months worth of bills. He said he had never saved a day in his life. He had never invested a day in his life. And because he got started a year prior, he now had the money to survive a very difficult time in his life and continue to pay his bills until he could find a new job. And that is the key. They say you should have 6 months worth of savings. I recommend people put that 6 months into the stock market so that it can grow and expand at a rapid pace. From there, if you want to invest money into real estate or wherever else, that's fine. But the stocks are very, very liquid. And so the first step is getting started. Just put money in. And the thing I recommend people do when they first get started is to buy an ETF called SPY. The SPY ETF tracks the overall S&P 500. You don't have to know anything about the stock market. You just put your money in there and let it grow. And yes, we'll have some years where it goes down. That's fine. Over the long run, the stock market goes up by 10% per year. And so just get started, get the money in there. Now, for those people that have a little bit of money invested and they say, all right, I'm ready to get out on my own and start learning a little bit more, I created a Trading Success U program that teaches people some more advanced techniques, such as using options to increase income, such as using a few different types of ETFs, doing their own technical analysis, their own fundamental analysis to find different stocks to invest in, and go beyond just an overall stock market ETF. Try to increase those profits higher than 10% per year. And then for those people who have gone through that and they say, all right, I'm ready to make even more, and they're willing to take on a little bit more risk, that we have the Stock Dads Discord. And in the Stock Dads Discord, we have 30 full-time professional traders. All they do is trade. They don't make videos. They don't go on podcasts. All they do is trade. That is their livelihood. And many of them, most of them are multi-millionaires, and they made their money trading. They didn't make it in any other way. And some of those people trade stocks. Some of those people trade options. Some trade Forex. Some trade futures. Some trade crypto. We have all different types of trading methods depending upon what you're interested in. And so the goal behind that is to get you around a bunch of millionaires, get you around a bunch of people who are successful so that you can watch what they're doing, copy their trades if you want to, learn from them so that you can then go find your own success. And it just goes right along with that mentorship, what we've been talking about this entire time about changing your circle of friends.
Yes. Yeah. And it's okay if we have to push some people out of the car. Sometimes we got to jump out of the vehicle. All right, don't do it. I'm just, that's a illustration, ladies and gentlemen. I know there can be some litigious conversations that take place, but please stay safely strapped into the carriage until the ride comes to a complete stop, as they tell us at Six Flags and other places. One other question I got to ask you is about Kalshi, which I think is listed on there. This sounds really interesting to me, not something I've ever been involved in, but this has to do with prediction markets, correct?
It does. So Polymarket is the most famous one most people have heard about. Here in the United States for the past few years, Polymarket's been banned. They will be coming to the US in a few months, but for now they're banned. And so Kalshi really came on the scene and provided US traders the ability to trade on prediction markets. Now, a thing about prediction markets that you have to understand is it's all a calculated risk. And whenever you're getting on there, honestly, I find this to be a lot closer to gambling than investing in the stock market, where we know stocks go up on average.
Yeah.
When it comes to prediction markets, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, and some people come up with different strategies. I really find it to be a lot closer to gambling than actually investing. It can be fun to bet on certain things. There's no crazy markets like Polymarket has. You can't bet on whether or not Jesus is going to return this year, but you can bet on things like weather and what the Federal Reserve is going to do and things like that. But I personally haven't made any money on it, but it is fun to do every once in a while.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation starter, if nothing else. It does always, and it was Polymath. I think that's the other one that you mentioned, correct?
Yeah, Polymarket.
Polymarket, pardon me. Yes. So it takes me back to watching Vegas Vacation, and where Cousin Eddie took Chevy Chase's character, and they had betting on whack-a-mole and how many fingers am I holding behind my hands, and yeah, good for a laugh. So, ladies and gentlemen, wisdom is what we need, and we can thank the good Lord for that. So, Scott, absolutely, thank you for sharing your incredible journey and your insights with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And again, I just sincerely hope that some people are motivated, inspired by today's message, and that most importantly, you get out there and you take action to improve your life. I know you're
Yes.
going to find success. I know your life is going to change for the better. You do not have to stay in the same place you've been in. Things can and will get better for you. Just take action to make it happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, for you that are inspired by Scott's message, maybe you recognized yourself in some of the things that he has been going through, I encourage you to visit faithroar.com to access motivation, education, and mentorship that can help you roar your faith and achieve greatness. If you've enjoyed this episode, of course, please subscribe to the 5 a.m. podcast and share it with your friends who are ready to take those bold steps in their lives and businesses. Until next time, I'm Michael Klassen, reminding you that every morning is a new opportunity to rise, shine, and pursue your highest potential. Please remember to seize your days, enjoy those sunrises and sunsets and all those beautiful adventures in between. We'll chat with you next time. Thanks for watching the show. Just a reminder that you can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com. 5am podcast is brought to you in part by mkci.ca, a certified member of the Autodesk Developer Network. MKCI helps companies maximize their AutoCAD, Inventor, Navisworks, and other design software investments. Their innovative products like the CommandSys script editor and the Clash Management Suite will streamline your workflow and boost your productivity. Visit mkci.ca today to discover how they can enhance your competitive CAD advantage. That's mkci.ca. Thank you for your support of 5am Podcast.